All right, so Spanish 1, Test 7, Section 1. Well, okay, so it covers Chapter 7, obviously, and there are 52 questions. There's only 52 questions on this test. So, Section 1 is conjugate verbs. It's going to be questions 1 through 12. So, 1 through 12. And it's going to be the same as always, where I give you a subject pronoun, and then I give you an infinitive, and you have to conjugate it based on that pronoun. So the verbs that you need to know are hacer, jugar, tocar, saber, y decir. Okay? So there's just 5 of them. So hacer, jugar, tocar, saber, and decir. Now, remember that if you find yourself struggling with the verbs, what I want you to do is make yourself a fake quiz. So these are the 5 that are going to be on the test, and what you would do is make it look like it's a test. So on a piece of paper, write random subject pronouns, and then just kind of mix and match and throw some verbs, like one of these verbs on there. Put your notes away, close your book, pretend, like simulate a test, and then sit down and try to answer it, and then go back and check your answers. Because I really, really believe that if you have to sit there and search your brain for the answer, that's what's going to push it into long-term memory. And if you can get this stuff down really well now, then you will have a lot fewer problems later on. Part 2 is 13 through 16. So this is part 2, and it's 13 through 16. Let me see if I turn the light on, if it'll be bright. Okay, maybe that'll help just a little bit. I need to make a note to buy markers at the store. All right, so part 2 is 13 through 16, and this is dealing with direct objects. Okay, so remember, a direct object is what or who receives the action of the sentence, and it answers the questions what or who. So what this is going to be is the sentences, or the directions say, rewrite the sentences and replace the direct object with a pronoun. Now, I have underlined the direct object for you, so you don't even have to pick it out. You just have to know what pronouns to replace it with. So remember that the direct object pronouns are me, te, lo, la, nos, los, or las. Okay? You have to be aware of gender with these, obviously. So, okay, yeah. All right, so what this is going to look like is you might have something that says, okay, yo voy a llamar a mis amigas. Okay, and then it'll be underlined like this. Okay, because remember that if you have a direct object that's a person, you have to have the personal a. So, yo voy a llamar a mis amigas. If you have, so the first thing I want you to do, you have to figure out what the pronoun is that you're going to replace it with. So, of me, te, lo, la, nos, los, and las, this has to be las, because it is feminine, and we know that because of the amigas, and it's plural. So it has to be las, okay? Then we have to deal with where do we put the pronoun. Remember that if you have one conjugated verb, you have to put the pronoun in front of the verb. So one conjugated verb automatically goes before the verb. If you have an infinitive or a present progressive, so infinitive is a verb that ends in AR, ER, or IR, and the present progressive is estar plus the present participle, which ends in ando or endo. You have 2 options because you have a conjugated verb and a present participle, or a conjugated verb and an infinitive. You have 2 options. If you have the present progressive or an infinitive, it can either go before the conjugated verb, or It can go attached to the infinitive or the present participle. Okay, so this sentence, we have an infinitive, all right? So we can either say, yo las voy a llamar, or you can say, yo voy a llamarlas. Okay? What you cannot do is you cannot say voy las a llamar. Okay? It either has to go in front of this conjugated verb, or it has to go after an attached and becomes one word with the infinitive. Okay? So just to review, if there's one conjugated verb, it goes before the verb. If your sentence has an infinitive or present progressive, it can either go before the conjugated verb or after and attached to the infinitive or present participle. Okay? Yeah, so I'm not going to do any more examples on that one. I'm trying to do this real fast. All right, 17 through 20 is indirect object pronouns. This marker is just... So this is fill in the blank with the correct indirect object pronoun. And indirect object pronouns are, are almost the same as direct object pronouns, with the exception of le and les. Excuse me. Okay, so since this is fill in the blank, you're going to have your indirect object is going to be underlined in your sentence again, so that you don't even have to think about what it is. And then you have to figure out what indirect object pronoun would go with that indirect object. All right? So you might have something like, I'm sorry. Okay, blank dice la verdad a sus padres. This is saying he says the truth, or he tells the truth to his parents. Here's your indirect object, okay? What pronoun has to go with this? It's plural, it's third person, so it has to be les. So all you have to do, you don't have to rewrite the sentence or anything. All you have to do is write les in the blank, okay? All right, that should be good. Part 4 is 21 to 25, and this is verbs like gustar. Gustar. So what this is going to do, this is again, it says fill in the blank with the correct form of the verb given. This is verbs like gustar. There were, I think we did 3. It was gustar, fascinar, molestar, encantar. That's 4. I can't count. Sorry, that's 4. So what this is going to do, you have to decide if it needs to be gusta or gustan, fascina or fascinan, encanta, encantan, molesta, molestan, okay? So I have given you something like, blank el voleibol, or te blank el voleibol. So you have to decide if this needs to be fascina or fascinan. Now remember that when you're talking about verbs like gustar, it is the thing that is being liked, the thing that is doing the fascinating, that is the subject. Okay? So volleyball is the subject of this sentence. So what you're saying is volleyball is volleyball fascinating to you? So since this is the subject, the verb has to match the subject in singularity or plurality. So el voleibol is singular. So that means that our answer has to be fascina. Okay? And that's all you have to do. If I said something like los deportes, that's plural, so then your answer would be fascinan. Okay? Part 5 is 26 to 35, and it is translations. Just kidding. It's not that many. 26 to 35 is true. Okay, so it's kind of translation, but it's true or false. Okay? So write a C, correcto, if the translation given for the English sentence is correct, and I if the translation the translation given is incorrect. Okay? So you're going to write C if it's a correct translation and I if it's an incorrect translation. This is dealing with hacer and tener expressions. Okay? Hacer and tener expressions. So what this is going to look like is I have said something like, excuse me. And you have to know if this is a correct or incorrect translation. So we'll have a blank right here, and then you write C or I. So what is it's windy? The expression is hace viento, not está viento. Okay? So in this case, this translation is incorrect. So you would write an I. Okay? So it's that easy. You might have something like, I feel like tengo ganas de. So this is a tener expression, and this is correct because we say I feel like and then doing something, and then tengo ganas de plus infinitive means to feel like. So this would be correct. Okay? So it is a kind of translation, but you're basically telling me if I did the right translation. So you want to find that list, the two lists, one of hacer expressions and the other of tener expressions, and you need to know what those mean, okay? So that's that one. And then part 6 is translation, it's vocabulary. 36 to 40 is Spanish to English, and 41 to 45 is English to Spanish. Okay? So, vocabulary from chapter 7. 36 to 40 is Spanish to English, and 41 to 45 is English to Spanish. Okay? And then the last section is translations. 46 to 52 are translate the sentences. I'm going to sneeze. All right, 40, thank you. Thank you. I know that in your head you said bless you. That's why I said thank you. Oh boy. Okay. Translations. This is going to cover the near future. Verbs like gustar, tener expressions, direct and indirect object pronouns, the difference between tocar and jugar, and decir. Okay? So the difference between jugar and tocar, they both mean to play. Jugar is sports or games, like board games or video games. And tocar is an instrument. Okay? Excuse me. So, to make the near future, we use ir plus a plus infinitive. Okay? That means you're going to do something. So if I said something like, he is going to play the piano, we would say, él va a tocar el piano. Okay? He is going to play the piano. Near future. So when you're going to do something, you use ir plus a plus infinitive. I had to leave this as the infinitive because it's in my formula, but also we're trying to say to play, so I have to leave it in the infinitive. Okay? You might have a sentence like, I'm trying to think of some of your vocabulary words. Oh, trips. I think this trip was one of your vocabulary words, I think. So we like the trips. So, to whom, like who's doing the liking. So whoever is doing the liking is the indirect object pronoun. Okay? So it's not nosotros gustan. Okay? The one doing the liking, that's the one you have to use the indirect object pronoun for. So the indirect object pronoun for we is nos. So we say nos. The verb like, what we use for like is gustar. Okay? And then the trips, this is plural, so we say las viajes. Okay? And since I figured out, okay, this is plural, I need to go back and check my verb and see if it's right. I say gusta if my subject is singular, and gustan if it's plural. This is plural, so this has to be nos gustan las viajes. Okay? All right. You also might have something like, we need to call them. Okay. Now, on this assignment, this section, I have indicated to you what you're supposed to do. So this says use DOP. I've actually written that on your test when it's necessary, okay, so that you are aware of that. So we need to call them. We, in this case, is the subject, so we say nosotros, nosotros. You can leave it off. It's not necessary to translate that word. Needing is necesitar, so it becomes necesitamos. To call is the verb llamar. I'm leaving it in the infinitive because this literally means this, right? Because an infinitive means to verb and this means to call. And then them. This says use a direct object pronoun because who are we calling? We're calling them. So, it doesn't have a gender, so it could either be los or las. So in this case, if it doesn't tell you what gender to use, you can use whichever one you want. So maybe we'll use los. Okay, los or las is fine. Then you have to decide where does the los or las go in the sentence. There's an infinitive here, so that means you can either put your pronoun after and attached to the infinitive or before the conjugated verb. You can never put it between the two verbs. Never, ever, ever. It either goes here or here. I'm going to go ahead and attach it right there. So nosotros necesitamos llamarlos. And that's it for that one. Okay. I think that's really it. I want to keep this video kind of short. But like I said, it's going to cover the near future, verbs like gustar, direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, tocar, jugar, decir, you need to know how to conjugate decir, and then that's really it. I'm trying to think. Okay. Vocab. Let me give you a couple of these words that I think you've had in your vocabulary before, but I just want to make sure. So you need to know how to say to visit. You need to know how to say to give. You need to know lesson. You need to know to buy. All the other words on here, on this section, I believe are in your vocabulary for this chapter. So you should have been studying those anyway. Just a note, this is la lección. Okay, it is feminine. If you say el lección on this test, I will count it wrong. Okay, you need to know by now that lesson is feminine. Any word that ends in ción or sion is feminine. Okay, so lesson is la lección, feminine. All right, and then as always, there are 3 extra credit problems. True and false, or cierto y falso, and I think that's it. It's the culture stuff, just like always from your chapter 7. Okay, if you have any questions, obviously let me know, and good luck.